All right, everyone, we're now going to begin the Q&A with Madeleine Sims-Fewer, Dusty Mancinelli, Jesse LaVercombe, and Anna Maguire. How are you guys doing? Can you hear us? You guys can hear us? Okay.
Good, yeah, we can hear you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming.
First off, on behalf of the Saskatoon Fantastic Film Festival staff and the audience, thank you for being with us here today. I absolutely love your film, and I think it's an incredibly powerful and important story, and it really shook me to my core. You guys and your whole team should be really proud of yourselves. After screening it with the programming process, it stuck with me for days, so it was nice to see it again and relive all of that trauma with you guys. But first, to start things off, I'm going to ask you guys a few questions, and then I'll go to the audience for your guys' thoughts and questions. So Madeleine and Dusty, how did this partnership with you two begin?
Yeah, we met at the 2015 TIFF Talent Lab, and at the time we were just making our own short films, but we were secretly, I think, looking for a collaborator.
Yeah, we actually, funnily enough, we went to film school together at the same time, but we never met. Dusty was a year older than me, and we just never crossed paths. And then 10 years later, we met at TIFF and just like instantly became friends and decided to make stuff together.
Yeah, and we decided to do our master's in film production in Toronto, and it was there that we started collaborating as a directing, producing team. And it's actually our first project together was this short film called Slap Happy, which also stars Jesse. And it was our first time meeting Jesse, and we really loved working with him. And so we worked with him again, actually, on another short of ours called Chubby. And we wrote Violation a couple years ago, and it was just when we were writing it, we knew that Jesse would be perfect for it. And we'd actually been following Anna's work really closely, and we were really excited to just offer her the part of Greta.
I feel very lucky.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Jesse, you were tasked with playing a very complicated role for this one. How did you go about playing this morally flawed character?
Oh, just as myself, you know.
That was all you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm joking, but I mean, I do. I think that, you know, you try to get behind characters as much as you can and put yourself in their shoes and try to, you know, defend their even more morally indefensible positions is, I think, kind of the job that we have to do. And so yeah, bring a lot of myself to it is I would say how I went about it, you know what I mean? And you know, I've worked with these guys a few other times, and they give so much space and encourage such kind of bravery and creativity and improvisation and all these things. So it really felt comfortable, going to all these places with them, and I was really excited to do it.
Awesome. Do you have any questions from the audience? You?
So I am curious. This was a Midnight Madness film. Like, I think it would have been amazing to see this film played with that audience, but just like, what was the experience like having a film like this, which is so different than when you think Midnight Madness, you think, oh, hey, total exploitation, silly horror, like that, where this is so grounded and so real, what was that experience like? Because did they do a Q&A with you and things like that, and how did it go?
Were you guys
Thank you. That's a great question. It was a strange experience because it was similar to this. It was really limited capacity at the screening. So it wasn't those kind of typical Midnight Madness screenings where they're like packed and everyone's yelling and screaming and saying stuff. So it wasn't the same kind of experience that we've had at Midnight Madness in previous years with audiences. I think that would be really interesting to see. And we knew going into this film that we wanted to do something different in the space of a rape revenge movie. We've seen lots of those films and are big fans, and we wanted to do something that kind of did take it to an incredibly grounded place to kind of shock the audience a little bit into feeling, because there is that sort of wish fulfillment in these films where they're very heightened and they're really exciting. And I remember seeing Revenge at TIFF a couple of years ago, and it was that really kind of great experience where everyone's cheering on this woman. It almost feels like a video game. But we wanted to do something the complete antithesis of that, just to really make the audience feel what it would actually be like for somebody to go through this kind of revenge, and maybe scare people out of the idea that revenge is the answer.
Yeah, and Peter Kaplowski, who programs Midnight Madness at TIFF, was really looking for new work that I think challenges these tropes. And I think that we've made a really a difficult film for a number of reasons. It kind of sits in different spaces. It's, at its heart, it's really a film about two sisters, and it's about betrayal and what happens when you don't have the emotional support you need from someone that's supposed to be there always and definitely for you. But at the same time, there is that kind of horrific thing that happens in the film. And there is that level of violence that, even though there's not a lot of it, because it's so grounded, I think it really stays with people in a way that lingers and is quite shocking. And it almost feels more violent than it actually is, I think, for that reason.
We'll go to the front here.
I had a question for Madeleine and Dusty. This film, first, I should say to all four of you, congratulations on a really amazing movie. Really enjoyed it. Very well done. It's shot very intimately. There's a lot of close-ups, and you managed to make a lot of mundane things look rather extraordinary. Could you please talk about the choice to shoot the movie that way with so many different close-ups?
Yeah, we actually, when we started working together, when we were at the TIFF Talent Lab, Jean-Marc Ballet came and did a workshop with us, and he really inspired us. He has this kind of 360 approach with no lights whatsoever, and just letting the actors live in the space and being able to just put the camera anywhere. And have it look beautiful but be really embodied and real. And I think that really, really inspired us. And we've been working really closely with our DP, Adam Crosby, through all of our short films to develop this specific style and look. Yeah, and so we film with all natural light, which is very challenging because it requires us to schedule things really around very specific times of day. And it also means that we have to work really closely with our production designer. It means curtains and lampshades become part of how we shape the lighting. But we knew we wanted to create a real level of intimacy with the film in certain sequences. And for that reason, most of those scenes are shot on a really long lens with a really shallow depth of field. And that really allows us as an audience, I think, to really feel what Miriam's feeling. It puts us in her psychological headspace, and I think it creates a really visceral experience for the audience. And again, that's really our terrific DP, Adam Crosby, and he really is like another character in the film. In that sequence with Jesse and Madeleine when they're fighting, it's like there's this moment where you feel like you are Jesse getting out of that chair, because the camera is literally right behind his head, moving, kind of mimicking everything he's doing, so you feel like you're there in that moment, and that was really important to us. We also really wanted to create this idea of Miriam psychologically unraveling with Adam. We talk a lot with Adam about what the characters in the films that we make are going through, and we found these fantastic Soviet lenses that have they're lenses that Tarkovsky used, which really excited us. But also they have this beautiful kind of swirling, almost like a pattern behind the subject. And so we kind of incorporated those later on in the film when my character starts to really fall apart. But I have to say that to shoot a film like this really is incredibly demanding on the cast. So for example, Anna, that one scene that you guys saw of her swimming in the water with Madeleine near the end of the film, we shot that for 18 hours
because there were different times of day that we knew we could film that at. We actually started at dawn, and
it was dark.
It was pitch black when we got into that water, and we knew we could. The lighting changed every 4 hours, so we knew if we didn't get it in those 4 hours, we had to do it again. And I remember at one point, and it was at the end of August, but we were in the mountains, so the water was quite cold. I remember we would take Anna and Madeleine into a car to warm up, and Anna just would look at me, and I would look at her, and I would say, "Sorry, we just have to do it again." I'm sorry.
Right, I think at one point you were like, "Should we come back tomorrow or finish it now?" And Madeleine and I both looked at each other, and we were like, "Finish it now."
Yeah, and we were just so lucky that I think being in that water for that long, it worked out so that what you saw was really like the last few takes right as the sun was setting, where they had completely given everything they could give to that moment. And we were
it was like the Stanley Kubrick approach of just shooting.
Yeah, that was
no more energy.
That's what you guys were going for, I think, all along.
Just torture you.
Just to surrender. Yeah.
You did a good job though. It worked out. So, hey, it's a good method.
Jeff.
Question for Anna and Jesse. There's I want to say almost the lighthearted scenes in the film seem so natural. Were those completely scripted? Thinking of the scene where Anna, where you're cutting the wood, and Jesse, where you're kind of sitting around the fire. Was that improv or was that completely scripted?
Do you want to go first, Jesse?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I mean, around the fire with Madeleine was the one that was probably where it went off script the most. That's like a 12-minute scene on the page, and we shot that over the course of a couple nights. And I mean, yeah, we would when it's 4 a.m. and you're just doing it again and again. I mean, you start kind of going off into weird places, and there's definitely a couple minutes, I think, of that scene that was improv, and improv kind of, I mean, the dialogue that they write lends itself to that in a really natural way. So I don't think that, you could tell very well. They write in a way that sounds that natural, but yeah, a lot of times we would go off into improv and find jokes and find other weird topics, philosophical topics. Sometimes it was really fun to shoot.
We spent rehearsing as well, and I think Anna, like the relationship I think you built with Jesse during the rehearsal process kind of gave you guys a lot of kind of memories and kind of things to work from.
I think all of us had that sort of opportunity. We spent sort of 2 weeks rehearsing before we started shooting, and so we all sort of spent time together, sort of in character. And yeah, the woodcutting scene, for example, there was a lot on the page, but again, Dusty and Madeleine gave us such a great opportunity to sort of play. And because we'd done all this rehearsal in character, we kind of knew, we kind of all just there, we weren't like, oh, what would my character do? But it was there, and we had these sort of backstory worlds, but not because we'd sort of discussed them in a sort of intellectual way. We'd sort of played them out in rehearsal. So I felt anyway, and I think we all felt really comfortable with each other in those circumstances. And it was a lot of fun, actually. It felt very warm and lighthearted and real. And I think that was, glad to hear that that's sort of what came across.
I really love the details of the disposing of bodies and the planning and how to drain the blood out and all that. And grinding the bone, that was a genius part. What was the process like to research, to write, for those parts? Did you watch a bunch of criminal TV shows, or where those come from?
I think we're both already really obsessed with those kinds of murder shows.
Well, yeah, no, the film for us comes from a very personal place, and we both have experienced trauma in our past, and the film is in a way, it's like a cathartic experience for us to kind of live out our own fantasies, but also to scare ourselves into not wanting to seek revenge. That's the whole point of the movie, is you see how destructive and terrible revenge is and how it can really destroy someone's morality and corrode their soul. And so I think many of what you saw was our own, how would we really go about it? And it forces you to go to these really dark places in your minds of, what would that really look like?
And we talked about it a lot. Like when we write, it's incredibly collaborative and we're in the same room and we improvise and record it and then kind of work with that dialogue. And we would talk a lot about, okay, what if she does this? And then Dusty would be like, no, she'd get caught. And we really wanted Miriam to be smart. We didn't want her to do anything in the disposal of the body that was really stupid. We wanted her to be as smart as the audience are, because when you watch a film with a murder, you're always thinking, oh, that was such a stupid decision, or, oh, I would do it differently. We wanted the audience to feel like, no, that's probably how you would do it.
Yeah, the challenge too is we knew we didn't want the film to be about whether or not she was going to get caught, right? So it's the film kind of ends before you ever find out whether or not she gets caught, but really it's about like what's that emotional, psychological toll that it takes. Mm-hmm. And so how are they impacted by that? So it was, for us, trying to pick those moments carefully and letting the audience feel like they're in that room watching that moment. And so just for an example, when she slits the throat in the film, it was really, really important to Madeleine that the vomit be real. And so that is like actually Madeleine projectile vomiting. And that was something that, like, as the co-director of the film and the star, she could easily fight for. And I was like, okay, if you are comfortable doing this,
that was non-negotiable. And that had to be.
I will get behind this. But yeah, so it's it was really about like creating these moments where the audience could feel like they were in that space with her. And I think there's something really mundane about and banal about the process of getting rid of a body that you don't normally see, because it's usually,
you see the highlights.
Yeah, it's usually really romantic or like gratuitous. But just the idea of like putting blood in a laundry detergent bottle seemed like a very practical way to do it, and terrifying now. Whenever you look at a laundry detergent bottle, hopefully you think about that.
John, you got one?
Yeah. I guess it's two questions. Was it shot in order, the scenes? And then also, did Anna know, and did that have any impact on you? That you did know kind of here's actually how the revenge actually happened, or did they try to keep you, were you kept away from it? Because that's like after the fact, if you know what went on, I just imagine it'd be harder to like not know and everything.
Yeah, we always scripted the movie out of order. It was really, we structured the film around Miriam's kind of unraveling and the betrayal. So it's really about like recontextualizing who are these characters, and you think you understand who Jesse is, and then you get another scene that forces you to rethink who he is. And it's really designed to show you.
It's more about the behavior than about the plot, I think, is what we were interested in kind of just like picking apart these people rather than pulling you along with a murder plot.
I wish we shot it in order, but that was definitely not possible.
It was one of the most complicated schedules ever.
I think we did 100 schedules, mainly because we knew there were certain sequences that had to be shot right at dawn or right at dusk or right at sunset. Like we were filming with Anna, and then Anna's also a really great filmmaker, and her short film got into TIFF like last year, which is amazing. And when it happened, we're like, oh no, we can't.
We have to redo the schedule.
We can't film with you. We have to we have to rejig some stuff. So it was just constantly changing schedules. I think Jesse, you were there though, like for a straight run, and then it was just Jesse's dead body, which was weird because we had a full body cast of Jesse, and he left, and then he was just naked, lying on the ground, covered in a blanket, and we had to bring him out, which is a bit odd.
It was really like he never left.
Like he never left, yeah. But Anna came for a couple of weeks, left, and then came back at the end.
Yeah.
So it was a bit all over the place. And then Madeleine, we kind of saved all of her stuff that was just her right to the end of the movie. So we filmed out like Obi, who plays her husband, Jesse, Anna, and then saved all of Madeleine's stuff to the end. But we filmed for three days.
And in terms of knowing what was going on with Jesse's character, reading the script and everything, it was obviously, I found it a very powerful script, but I think that's part of the fun, right, of making films, is that what's going to happen, but you have to live in the moment. So you as the actor knows what's going to happen, but you as the performer is living in the moment, you as the character is living in the moment. And it was just, we had such a great time creating that alternative world. And the sort of, we really lived in the joy of those moments of joy in the film, which was, I think really important for the story, that we all sort of located ourselves in that space. And, we did that sort of both offset and onset. And we went swimming in the lake together. We ate amazing meals together. We all talked about our own lives. And I think it brought a real closeness. We were out in the woods. There was like very, very bad Wi-Fi. We were there like pretty much in the wilderness all together for like a couple of months, off and on. And so it really built a lot of intimacy. And so, there's always that strange double life with a film, your sort of character's life and then your sort of off-screen life that I think feeds into what happens on the screen. And I think Dusty and Madeleine really built that really well. I think it was very well masterminded to create such an intimacy that we couldn't help but sort of all fall in love with one another in this really beautiful way. And then it all unraveled on screen for you all.
Anyone have any other questions?
I had a question for Jesse and Madeleine. I think the reason this film is convincing is you're both fantastic at representing trauma. Both of your characters experienced trauma. And I was wondering if you could talk about what kind of study and preparation you have to do to be able to convincingly play that.
I'm going to let you take this first, Jesse.
Oh, good. Lordy. I mean, I don't know. I think that there's only so much. I mean, I think people approach things in different ways, but for me, I feel like there's only so much you can do before you're there on the day. I mean, obviously, you know what's going on, and you learn your lines, and you think about a situation, and you can do a certain amount of prep work, but whether you do a lot of prep work or a little prep work, your job on the day is to let all that go and then perform and then be in the moment and be willing to live in the unknown of something, and then having trusted your scene partner and sometimes your scene partner / co-director and director and to go where they are encouraging you to go, and to, trust your own instincts, and then have them go pull you one way or pull you the other way. Yeah, I mean, everybody on that set, spends so much time prepping, and then it all comes down to when the camera's rolling into a very short amount of time. And yeah, I mean, we in a movie like this, we get to do more takes than in like a TV show or something, but it's almost like a practice of, letting go, and it's more like meditative than it is, pulling from some specific thing you planned the previous week. It's more, being present enough where when Dusty whispers something in your ear right before your 10th take, you're willing to go somewhere new and interesting. And, so that's how I would talk about that process.
Yeah, I'd say really, and so my process is so similar to that too. I think it's, for me, really creating truthful, deep relationships with people. So that rehearsal time was so integral to this. And I obviously have a strong relationship with Jesse from working with him before. So because of that, I think I was able to let him really affect me and to let him kind of break my heart in those moments when his character does. But building those relationships in the rehearsal process with Anna, with Obi, with Jesse were just kind of really integral, because then you really feel like you are being betrayed by these people, and those moments are real.
Yeah. Just to add in one other thing, I mean, what Anne was saying about us all just kind of spending that time together, living together in this isolated area. I mean, all that plus having a long relationship with Dusty and Madeleine. I mean, you just don't get that very often. I mean, so often in working in film and theater, it's different. Working in film, you like show up and you meet the person you're performing with,
who you've been married to for like 30 years or something. Yeah.
Yeah, right before. And now it's weird because I was shooting on a TV show earlier, like a month ago, is that you have your masks on until literally action. And so you don't even you're with someone. You're like, I had a wife on that show. And I'm like, I don't even know what your face looks like until you're rolling and you get, 1 or 2 takes max. And then
that's wild. Yeah. So
the process in acting in film can be like that. And this is just the opposite of that. And I do think it is, maybe there are better actors who can get a performance with that much intimacy with none of this prep, but it's a lot, but I'm not that good. And so I
don't know if anyone is, Jesse.
Yeah. And so having, all this trust with these folks is really so important for this kind of more ambitious work.
Yeah, I think it's also just really important as a director, and I think as an actor as well, that you're not judging any of these characters. Like for Jesse to play that character, he's got to believe in that character's ideology and perspective. And if I, the director, am judging the character, it creates a kind of distrust between me and Jesse as we work. So I need to, in a way, put myself in his headspace, and I think trust is so critical in shaping some of these performances. Madeleine and I, we know each other so well that I think it enabled us to go to those really dark places together, because she trusted that I was there to kind of catch her or support her or guide her through that process, because it really does. As an actor, you're completely naked and at the will of someone else. And
you can only, I think, be really good if you are able to do that.
Yeah. I think trusting people, trusting your director is key. And I think actually losing yourself and allowing someone else to sort of have a sense of what your arc is and what you need to do. And I mean, it's so rare that you get the opportunity to work with directors that you trust in that way. So I think this was a very unique opportunity, and, I'm forever grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I have one last question, and then we're going to wrap things up here. But this isn't your standard type of rape revenge story that we're used to seeing. And I guess what I was wondering is, what was your goal in approaching this material? What was the end result that you were hoping for by talking about these really important, lesser discussed versions of what sexual assault can look like?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to answer that. The first thing that I think of is this idea that the film is so personal to both me and Dusty, and something that we've really found that people, especially when kind of the Me Too movement started, and everyone started being a bit more open about sexual assault and rape culture. I think one thing that still wasn't really being talked about was this kind of truth that most people who are sexually assaulted, it's by somebody that they know and they trust. It's actually much more rare that it's that stranger in the alleyway, which we see so much in films. This strange man in the woods, or the man in the underpass, just this menacing stranger. And we would just love if this film encouraged people to talk more about the fact that people who are assaulted are often assaulted by people in their family.
People they trust.
Yeah,
people they trust and who they love. And it just makes it far more challenging and more difficult when it's someone you care and love. It makes things more complex.
You can't just write that person off.
Yeah, it's not so black and white. And that's kind of why it was really important to us that we see the complexity of Jesse's character. We see he's quite charming, he's funny, but he does this terrible thing, and that's undeniable. And that just makes it more challenging to have to deal with it. And I think many people are in this situation where they don't know how to deal with it because it's so complicated, because it's someone within their family.
And revenge is not satisfying.
It's not satisfying, no. And the film is designed to scare you into not wanting to seek revenge because you can see how it will totally destroy your life. And hopefully, the tone of the film is meant to hopefully create the experience of trauma. If you've never experienced trauma in your life, this is kind of what it feels like. This is the kind of post-traumatic stress that the body goes through. And it's designed so hopefully more audience members can show empathy to the people around them who have gone through something as horrific as this and can be there to support them and for there to be conversation. And that's really all we ever want, is really just to encourage conversation, because these are really challenging topics that most people just don't want to talk about.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and congratulations again on making an incredible movie, and thank you so much for sharing it with us today. Let's give a round of applause for
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.